build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. Hello everybody, welcome to Longbangers. This is episode 165. I'm your host Matty and joined tonight by Colin and John as always. John, how are you doing?
I'm right. I had the excitement of cutting my fingernails this evening and burning some old paperwork in the back garden.
Rather than shredding it, you're going for the chuck it in the fire.
Aye.
That's what I do.
Aye. I've not got a shredder, but I do have an old washing machine drum, that's the right word. And I burnt it in there.
I quite like the idea of burning things. I think if that's something you should admit to, but always like when you have a barbecue or like a fire pit and all that. Brilliant.
I think there's three things that I found in the world that will captivate the attention of a room: dogs, children, and fires.
Not all at the same time.
Not all at the same time, preferably.
Aye, that's good. And cutting your nails, nail clippers or scissors?
The wee little clippers.
I
find they're much better than the scissors, but it's kind of awkward because, like, unless you're ambidextrous, there's always a dominant hand. So when you come to do the other one, it's always like a wee bit cack-handed.
How do you think Beadle managed?
Somebody do it for me.
Aye, he was probably minted enough. Like,
just get somebody to come in specially.
He's pocketing somebody 200 quid, so you've been framed.
Aye.
You backhander.
Aye.
Unless, like, you got to imagine there's someone in the public eyes getting a manicure going off and having someone do it for them.
They'll probably get that before they go in here, They get all that's taken care of them. Here done and
makeup and manicure.
Like us, do you know, like we didn't, obviously anybody watching this will go, some cats looking after them before they come on in front of the camera. And you're right, we've all got makeup artists and hairstylists.
That's where the subscription money goes.
That's where it all goes. All goes. I mean, some would say we've not spent that wisely, but fuck them. Colin, how are you doing?
Aye, good mate. Aye, I'm good. I'm keen to hear more about how you kind of use nail clippers though, because John never picked up on that.
It's sort of a bit because I have to use nail scissors to cut my nails. I just sort of
never used scissors for my nails ever.
Nail clippers. I just I had to give me the feel like I just kind of.
Are you worried about like nipping off at the quick, like catching the skin or something?
I just the whole thing just gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Really?
Aye. Scissors no bother. Like I just cut my nails and a pair of nail scissors. But
that could be a thing that we do live if we're organising up a bit on short bangers, like just to see how squeamish you really are, like sitting in the chair, RoboCop style.
No deal. There was
the live show.
Oh, what was I watching? It was it was on Netflix. It's got the boy who's Deadpool in it. What's his name? Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds, yeah.
Grey Man. You seen that?
No.
It's alright. It's sort of like Jason Bourne, like in the Bourne movies. But there's a boy who gets tortured by having his nails pulled out, and that fucking hell, couldn't watch it either. That the whole thing with fingernails, that just gives me the fear, and that was like fucking hell. I'm not really that squeamish a person, but.
You can clip them. You can't clip them, but you can scissor them. Like I didn't see how that's any less.
Aye, who's human brains are funny thing, Colin.
Aye, yes indeed.
Yes indeed. Right, well, we'll get started. Loose agenda for the night. We'll talk a wee bit about the experience at Livingston on Saturday. We'll go to Colin for Voice of the People and go through all your talking points. Anything that we've not covered through that we'll cover afterwards, and then we'll do the quiz. I've got a good quiz lined up for you tonight as well, guys. I think you should be getting the hang of the questions by now. So I'm looking forward to that, and then we will preview the game against Rangers on Saturday lunchtime. We'll preview it tonight, but the game's on Saturday lunchtime, just in case anybody thinks the episode's going to be really fucking long. We're not going to be on here till Saturday lunchtime. It's only Sunday night, right? So, Livingston getting in, everybody's in. Fire drill. John, were you in time for the fire drill? You weren't, you sat beside me.
Nah, we stood outside when I could hear the alarm going off and everyone was standing about, stewards included, trying to work out what the fuck was going on.
It was like almost the definition of shambles. I would have hated to have, if it actually been something serious happened. Have you ever seen the episode of the IT Crowd where Roy tries to figure out how there's been a fire at the water park?
No.
He goes out with a girl and she says her mum and dad died in a fire at like the dolphin show at the Water World. And he's a fire And it's like it just does his like it blows his mind that there could be a fire and folk would die at a water park. Anyway, there was no sign of a fire or anything like this, and the woman's given it the recorded voice. I imagine it was just somebody sitting repeating herself. It was like a recording saying there's an emergency situation. Please evacuate the ground in a like orderly manner. And it goes the first time and everybody just ignores it. It goes the second time, everybody ignores it. Third, fourth, I'm going, that's no stopping it. This is like an actual proper alarm. And nobody's giving a flying fuck about it. The stewards aren't caring. The people, like the fans, weren't caring. Nobody was looking to move. There was a bit of movement over in the Livy end. And so I was just at the kind of I had an aisle seat. So I just went down and said to the stewards, have we go out? And he says, I don't know, I didn't ken. So I'm just radioing to try and find out. So he's on his wee earpiece and he's none the wiser. Like he's on that and he's trying to look like he's listening, but I think whoever he was radioing is just ignoring the fuck out of him.
He was maybe just checking Sportsline, like see what the pre-game chat was.
I wish she'd shut up. I can't hear what they're saying in my ear. Somebody turn that eye off. But then the police came up at the vomitorium and just tell everybody to start moving, and that was when we ushered out. And I was like, it was a proper shambles. Like if that had been something serious, I think what you do though, like that must be the fans' fault. It's no Livy's fault for. Well, I suppose the stewards have a bit of blame for no being like, right, everybody fucking start moving. But what would need to happen for fans to take that seriously?
See, where we were sitting at the Tony Mac, away over to the left-hand side, they've got like big gates that open up, presumably if there was ever an ambulance needed to go into the pitch or whatever. And I would imagine if it was serious, and that's maybe part of the problem, that I wonder if because that side of the stadium wasn't open, they were just trying to shepherd folk down the fire exits through like the ordinary exit, and people like there was nothing obvious. Like I'm assuming it was a false alarm.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose luckily, like stadiums nowadays, the way that they're built, that there is easy exit points everywhere. But still, like you're kind of sitting there, like because again, like nothing obvious inside the ground was going wrong. So what was happening outside? And if there's nothing going on inside, and they're asking you to evacuate, you're kind of wondering what the fuck's going on outside.
Aye.
Like maybe I'm better off sitting here.
Aye, because if the trouble's outside, you'd be better getting folk in. What was quite funny though is we went out and we were just standing at the gate, but we'd exited, and the alarm stopped and they started coming in. And there was like 2 or 3 folk went in before us. They were just about to go in, and the wee steward's like, you need to scan your tickets and go through the turnstiles. And we're like, tickets will no work, mate. Like, we've already scanned them. And he was like, he thought for a wee second. He's like, what am I going to do here? And there was part of him was trying to be like that sort of bureaucrat. I'm in charge. You need to do this. And the other part was like, was going, I'm fucked here. So what he did was he went, if you've already been in, come in this gate. I'm like, fucking, as if anybody's going to go,
is anybody you know here that was here before?
It was like that. It's like you're relying on the honesty of football fans in a situation like that, and you've got no fucking hope. So, anyway, I mean, none of that mattered. It wasn't like there was any risk of a crush.
I take exception to that, Matthew. I'm pretty sure that rugby fans would have taken exactly the same view. This isn't a football fan problem. This is a steward problem.
Yeah, cinema goers, theatre goers, opera goers would all fucking taking the same stance and went.
Snobs and scum alike would be piling through that door.
I've been in already, mate. I did to scan my ticket. I'll come in now. I'm not going to the queue. So, anyway, all's well it ends well. It was only like 5 minutes of inconvenience, and then the game kicked off on time and all the rest of it. So it doesn't matter. But it was just a bizarre situation and not very well managed. I hope somebody goes in. This is my health and safety head coming on. You can tell like you've got like a management position at work. You start thinking about. Hope somebody's learned something for that, and they've got some new controls in place.
You're not talking about lessons learned.
Lessons learned. Something needs to go in review of what's going on there. Get the steward sorted. Anyway, it was a lovely hot day. Glad we went.
We just talk about that and then leave the rest of
it. Pretend it never happened.
Failure in health and safety. I wondered. I got your message saying it. I was driving home. My daughter was playing a football tournament. And I got back at 3:05, so I'd seen that the stadium's been a evacuated message, but I had the radio on in the car, and nobody mentioned it. It was never mentioned. I'm going, And I thought, oh, maybe it's out of context, and it was one of them that just flashed up on the screen. But I thought, what else has been said in the group chat for him to have then said that? So I wasn't sure if you were being genuine or not, because he never mentioned it. But I did then wonder if it was like one of these dirty tricks, kind of like they used to put water on the dressing room floor and all that to make it unwelcoming. Like, fucking set the fire alarm off to make the Hibs players go, oh, fuck's sake, the game's got to get delayed, and then catch some cold in that. And it worked.
Well, the players weren't bothered their arse about evacuating either, which was the other thing. Like, they just carried on their warm up. There was not even a suggestion on either side that they were going to go, there's a fire or something, now we better go. So I think that probably added to everybody's sense of calm. They were just it was a hot day, everybody was in a good mood. I think it was like, fuck it, a fire, so what? Let's get some sausages. It's a hot day, we'll just have
Might as well enjoy the warmth.
Aye.
The fucking flames that are going to kill us before the cost of living crisis freezes us to death.
Take advantage of it. Anyway, right, on to the football. Unfortunately, right, talking points, Colin. Voice of the people. What have you got for us this week?
Right, 4 topics, as usual. I think I might suggest the order we go in. So I've got performance as first, then the pitch as second, and then we'll go miscellaneous last. But before that, we'll do what do we need, because there's a few coming in about what's missing for the team. So does that sound reasonable?
Aye, so you say we're starting with what do we need?
Performance. Fucking
You don't pay attention.
No, he's deliberately done that, I can tell. Right, performance. So we've got Michael, Stuart, McGregor. That's 3 different people, by the way. Michael, Stuart and McGregor. Tony Swanson, Charlie Mulgrew thinks you made that up. Kaiser Soze, Hibs US, Ryan Morrison, Andrew Brown, and Stephen McDonough. Far too narrow in the first half. Allowed their back 4 to be super tight. Second half was much better. Penalty shout for Boyle, dodgy free kick for their second, and a sitter at the end. Unlucky to lose, maybe. Thought we looked decent going forward today. Just needed to click. Can't say the defence fills me with confidence apart from Marshall. A couple of folks said this. Still excited for the season. I don't know what's wrong with me. Ewan and Kenny are good prospects. Boyle inspired again. Was Melkerson injured? Should have sold Doige. Team's not physically strong enough to compete. Need a centre back, centre midfielder, and a striker. That's for the next section. All of which, if I had choices to move to other teams in our stress, no more development players. Doige lacking confidence, needs dropped to the reserves to hopefully get back to some sort of form before getting a look into the first team again. This one's broken down into the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the good, I think, with a player in Yuan, goal's not far away. The bad, Hanlon and Doige need moved on. Henderson and Newell need to have a proper impact every week. Tavares looks way off it. And the ugly is those goals are criminal. We're going nowhere fast pulling that shit. That's twice at least this season, which is quite a claim 3 games in, that the attitude has been poor first half. It's obviously there. Porteous has to calm down or he'll spend too much time suspended. He overreacted a couple of times, lucky to get away with it. Apart from that, we're still capable of defending like fannies, and we really have to get these shitey pitches to fuck. Finally, we are shite, discuss. So, anybody any idea how a fanny defends and we are shite, discuss?
Well, the we are shite, discuss one for the first 45 minutes on Saturday. Fucking were shite. Like, there was very few redeeming features in that 45 minutes. It's one of these things, right? So I was on one of these Twitter Spaces things, right, with Marvin Bartley and Charlie Austin, and we were talking about the game. And what I asked them was, Marvin's been in both dressing rooms, right? The Hibs one and the Livingston one, and consistently Livingston outwork us, right? And that's my view, right? And I would say on Saturday, the reason that we lost that game, in my opinion, above everything else, was Livingston had more desire. That first 45 minutes absolutely killed us, going in a goal behind. And I said, how do you end up getting your players to work harder? And it basically says, like, Livingston, they know they've not got the best players, and tactically they might not be the best, technically they might not be the best, but the one thing that they can control is how hard they work. And so that's like sort of their focus on how they set up to beat teams, because you don't have to be a £5 million player to work hard, or to kind of run about or put tackles in and be physical. And that's what I thought we lacked. It wasn't until Boyle came on in the second half and started kind of doing that thing we talked about, kind of leadership, where you start to Rami and having coaches were getting involved and that kind of thing, that we actually looked like a team that cared about winning the game. So it was unforgivable. I mean, it was proper shite's being kind for that first half. I don't know, John, what do you think?
We're just talking about the first half. We're talking generally.
Just generally, however you want to approach it, mate.
Shite result, shite game, shite performance, shite referee, shite. Socially, really, really good. Got to meet up with a few boys for the other podcasts. Liam, you and Greg was out. Had a pint with Raymond and his laddie. A few other faces. Got to see or meet the infamous Kaiser Soze in the flesh. Hell of a guy.
Like? Describe it.
He looks.
He's the one that hides his face all the time, eh?
Like exactly like you expect him to look like.
Like a cartoon character. That's what I
What was it? I was asking him about something. I was asking him about the camel spiders that I think we talked about on Short Buyers. And I was like, oh, how did you get to see them? And he talked about something he works as, and then I was questioning him about it a wee bit more, and he goes, oh, I'm just a chef. And I thought to myself, like, aye, a fucking chef like Casey Rybeck in Under Siege.
He's the one that's sitting in the We Are Shite discuss point.
Aye.
I'm sure he's glad we've diverted on what it looks like and what he does for a living.
So it's interesting what Matty was saying about I think you were saying, Matty, about the second half, and there was we had a number of corners and there was pressure and we were better in the second half. Like I didn't see it, but similar to the derby the week before, I just didn't see it. I think maybe the first half had maybe killed any optimism, because it was just, like I say, it was just shite. I think the goal that we conceded was really, really basic stuff just going wrong, not being able to defend it. I didn't see a hell of a lot of movement. I didn't see any of the quick passes forward, to try and create chances. The thing that Lee Johnson said about how he was going to break teams like Livingston down, didn't see any evidence of it. It was shite. So I'm hoping for maybe someone to correct me on what it was like in the second half, because I just thought it was shit. I didn't think that when we got the goal back into it that it came from any particularly good work by Hibs. I don't think I ever felt like we were winning the game either.
I was quite surprised at that, John. I thought the second half we battered them up until maybe the last 10 minutes. And then we conceded, but even after we conceded, we had a couple of chances to go and equalise again. But I think we sort of... I suppose my issue is we did the job with our goalkeeper enough. We had loads of corners and we're getting into good positions, and maybe like that, again, the final ball, or a wee bit of decision making wasn't great. But in terms of putting Livingston under pressure, they definitely knew they were in the game second half. First half, the goal, the first goal was just fucking horrendous. And you look at Chabraya with the pass into Kenna, so I don't know whether the pitch plays a part here, because Chabraya looks like he's played a pass, or playing a pass that he's played 1,000 times before. It's almost one of these ones you don't even think about what you're doing. He just gets the weight of it all wrong, which leaves sells Kenna short. Kenna's sleeping. The Livingston player obviously kind of sees what's going to happen here, nips in, knocks the ball. Is it Nubley, who runs towards goal as if he's running through treacle, but somehow Kenna's slower than him. I don't know what Paul Hanlon does. I mean, it's like a fuckhead.
I believe the pitch for that as well. Maybe his studs got stuck in there.
Well, I mean, he just...
I believe the pitch for everything else, I'm not coming that section yet, but we'll find out.
But his attempt to target was just a shambles. And Hamilton can sometimes be no bad at those ones. You know, where somebody's running at them and they just put the foot out and stop the ball dead, and the player kind of goes flying over it. And then they come
it was mad, because on that one, you're right. Like I think there were two players running alongside him, not very fast, or appearing to be not very fast. Maybe he's got a long stride, the boy. And then it didn't even look like he changed direction, and Hanlon got done. And it's not like he's done him where he's dropped the shoulder, or
he's
like
no rolled the ball or anything like that.
Just ran straight, really slowly.
Do you know what I mean? Remember Malonga's goal against Aberdeen, where he ran for the other half, pretty much, and he pretty much put a boy in the arse by doing virtually the same thing. It was like a wee sort of
it's almost like it's that thing about letting the ball do the work. I wonder if Hanlon maybe expects movement there and it doesn't come because he's, like you say, like Colin's describing, like he's just sort of lumbering forward. Lumbering's maybe a bit harsh, but I don't think that the boy's particularly quick.
Nah, didn't he?
Although he was certainly quicker than Kenna and Gibraya chasing backwards.
Aye. I just the whole goal when it's like one of these embarrassing ones. You watch it back and you're going, how the fuck can you do that at this level? There's so many points of failure from Hibs in that goal.
Is that you getting back into work mode again?
Aye, it's almost like can you go to your root cause, right? Your root cause analysis comes to it's Chibraya's fault because his pass isn't good enough to start off with. But then you could look at why is he having to come inside at that point because Tavares hid the first half.
He was nowhere.
He took on a man once and he kind of got by him, a nice bit of skill and got across him. That was all he did that half. The rest of the time, you're going, where's the width? You're needing to stretch Livingston. Tavares is hiding the whole half. So Shabraya's got nowhere to go other than to try and go inside to Kenna. And he just gets a pass wrong. Kenna doesn't do his job well enough for it. And Hanlon certainly doesn't do his job well enough, and then it's a goal. Can't really blame Marshall. Ken Marshall's not got much of a chance. The boys got it right in off the inside of the post. So, but we didn't even learn a lesson after that because Livingston had another chance where they were through, and Marshall does make the save. Mm-hmm. But they were knocking the ball around. Everybody talks about Livingston being a big fucking long ball team, and all the rest of it. Livingston were knocking the ball about fine, and we were chasing shadows. We were just second to everything. It was appalling. The first half.
Yeah, that's right. What else did we say? So there's a few people saying the defence not filling them with confidence. Need a centre half. We'll come on to this section on what we need, but I think we all know we need a centre half. Doy just got a couple of comments in here about miles off it, whereas the good stuff was Yuan. I guess a few folks said he looks promising. What's your thoughts on that?
You'll go first, John.
Thoughts on Deutsch? I think in a game like yesterday, I think in a game like when he came on against Johnston, even Hearts, I don't think he would have played yesterday. He might not have seen any time had it not been for Melkerson, I believe, having gone over on his ankle and getting subs. So it wasn't like it was a tactical substitution for him to get back in the game. It was, oh fuck, when our strikers is injured, we better chuck our only other striker on. And I think the difficulty, I think, see when we're getting the ball into the box and we're creating chances and dodges on the end, he's capable of scoring goals. He's demonstrated that, but games like yesterday, because of a lack of movement, because there was a lack of chances being created, he just does look really, really exposed. I think in comparison to Yuan, his pace, and he does have a bit of trickery about him, is, I think it kind of highlights his abilities. Mm-hmm. So he was at least getting on the ball, but we were only getting the ball to Deutsch, and there's just a lack of movement. So he talked about Tavares before there, so I think that was one of the things I was really, really frustrated about. See, you know how at the start of the game when you see how teams are lining up, or what Sky or BT whatever thinks the formation is going to be, and it's got it kind of lined up 4-4-2 or 4-5-1, whatever it happens to be. That's how Hibs, at least in the first half yesterday, looked to be playing football. They were just almost playing amongst the positions. There wasn't really any movement. There wasn't any interchanging. There wasn't any wee 1-2s. There was no triangles of passes. It was just very, very flat, and it was shite. Aye, and that's what I'm saying about Dodge. If you're not getting the ball into the box, if you're not creating chances, then they're just exposed up there.
But when they do get balls in the box and they do create chances, it's too slow. I think maybe our only chance that I remember first half yesterday was actually a cross, and it was a Dodge header. I can't remember if it was Gibraya had swung it in. I don't remember any chances apart from that.
Nah, none that spring to mind. No good chances anyway. Livingston went man for man against us. That's what it looked like to me, and we just didn't have an answer for it. And I always think if you're playing a team who go man for man, that's where you need to be working harder, because you can't be static. You have to be on the move all the time, and you have to take players into areas where they didn't want to be, even if that means you're taking yourself out of the game for a bit. You run into an area where you take a player out of position and you rely on somebody else filling that space and going in, so you end up maybe with their midfielder having to track back to a centre half position where they're not comfortable, or at full back because the full back's marking the boy who's gone the other side of the pitch, or I can drop back to halfway and just taking him out of the game. You need to be clever enough to do that and to be active. But Hibs, just like you say, John, static, very, very little sort of clever movement, and we just played right into Livingston's hands. It was poor. And you see, like second half, I think Lee Johnson said he gave them all a wee bit of rocket, kind of hairdryer treatment or whatever, and they definitely worked harder. The second half, it was much more even in that respect.
And what did you think of Lee Johnson wearing the shirt rather than anything else? You know, like you said, the tracks. I've seen him in the training gear and I've seen him in the jumper before.
I think he's maybe going for a psychological thing to remind Martindale at that time he was in court. And it's backfired.
Do you think Lee Johnson's trying to find, like, from a superstitious point of view, the right outfit that's going to get Hibs a victory? Because I must admit, I realised today that I didn't wear the same outfit as I'd worn the last 2 weeks, so I do take some responsibility for Hibs' defeat yesterday as well. It was just too warm yesterday for jeans and the training top, so it was shorts and t-shirt.
I'm glad you said it, John, because somebody had to.
There's a couple of other things. Sorry, you got a point to make.
I was going to say about the central defence, which was the other kind of sort of prominent point that you put forward there. It's a worry that Hanlon, from my observation, Hanlon was nowhere near ready to play that game. He'd played 45 minutes of pre-season, for pre-season inverted commas, because we're obviously no in pre-season.
I think that ties in with one of the other points that's been made about what we need and how we're still so fucking lacking at centre half.
Yeah,
but he was, and it's all, you're almost at the point where you feel bad about. I mean, I have no problem. Paul Hanlon's big enough and sort of been around long enough to be able to take some criticism. I'm sure, so I have no problem criticising his performance. But you almost feel bad for doing it because he shouldn't have been playing. Like, he just did not look like, and on that pitch and that against a big physical centre forward, he was on a hiding to nothing, really.
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple of other things in here. So we spoke about the first goal, right? Then we had the penalty shout. Was that before we scored? I think it was. Do you think there was anything in that?
It was hard to say from my perspective. Well, I'm going to say from our perspective, Matt, because you're sat right in front of me, but it was at the opposite end of the pitch, and where we were sat, like the stadium doesn't really allow for good views of that kind of thing. So I don't know, and I've not seen it back since.
I've seen the replay, and I've seen them give him. Like,
that's what I said to you at the time when you messaged. So I think the boy stuck his leg out. Boyle kind of ran into it, fell down. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you didn't.
Yeah, definitely wasn't a dive, I didn't think. Do you know, I think there was. Okay, he's going fast, and there's contact there. He just made sure the referees. If you've seen it, that's it. I think if it happened in the middle, this is where the referee was frustrating though, because the referee was letting some really obvious fouls go, and then pulling up for some like kind of really minor things at different times. And I think
I don't know. Sorry, go on, Matty.
If he'd been consistent, there's a penalty. The other thing that he did was he stopped play after we'd taken a corner, and can't remember who it was that got fouled, Porteous or somebody came was pulled into the ground, Hanlon maybe, and they made us take the corner again. Who the fuck was in play? It's a penalty. You can't just go, I don't want to get a penalty, you just take the corner again and we'll just pretend that never happened.
Carry on.
No, they can only do that if it's before the corner. Dodgy free kick for their goal. No, we've not covered their goal yet, but dodgy free kick for their goal, do you think?
What do you think, John?
I feel like you're going to disagree with me based on your facial reactions.
I don't
think it was a free kick. I don't think it was a free kick. And I thought the referee, for someone who had so much authority yesterday, he looks like a person who has so little authority. Like, I remember him going up to speak to David Marshall at one point, and I presume he was going to speak to him, David Marshall, because he was the captain, because I think it was after that we
try to camp Porteous
down. I don't know, I think it was after the wee sort of like argy-bargy in the middle of the pitch, and I just looked at like the statutory Marshall, and I looked at the statutory of the referee, and I went, like, have you even actually reached puberty? I thought the referee was really shit. I thought the free kick, I thought I think it was just like a long ball, and I think it maybe taken a bounce, and the Livy player's gone up for it. And I think Chabraya anticipates that the Livy player isn't reaching it because he doesn't jump for it. But to me, that doesn't make it a free kick. Like, he's not. So I've seen free kicks given where two players go up and one player doesn't contest the ball and he just sort of bends over. Attacking player goes over the back of him. That wasn't the situation yesterday, and I've watched it back, and I thought at the time that the referee took a wee while to decide what he was doing, and the replay looks like he did it quite quickly. But I don't see how it's a free kick. I just don't.
I was shouting for a free kick for Hibs for it at the time, and again, like, obviously, like, I openly admit that I do that a lot anyway, even if it isn't a free kick to Hibs, right? But that one, I thought the boy went in like almost reckless. He's like high, he's leaping high. I think you're right. Chabraya doesn't really contest the ball. I think what he's meant to do, he can't go anywhere else. He can't get out of the boy's way.
See in rugby, that's a penalty to Livingston, and Chabraya gets the sin bin or a red card.
Does he?
For not contesting it?
For tackling the boy in the air, for connecting with the guy in the air. So it'll be the safety
no danger.
of the player. I don't know what the rule in football is on it, because it did look like the boy just went up in the air and fucking fell over Chabraya.
I also wonder if, I don't know, I know we're going to talk about the pitch and I maybe try to join dots that didn't exist, but I wonder if, because of the pass in the first half, what you were saying, Matty, about maybe the pitch has slowed it down, because the pitch definitely slows the ball down. Like, there was multiple times yesterday where there's been like a ball kind of pinged across the pitch and you can see it where it sort of like digs into the rubber pellets. It takes something off the ball.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Chabraya is maybe expecting a different bounce, and that's why he doesn't contest it. But it definitely wasn't a free kick to Livingston.
If he had contested it, if he had jumped, I don't think it would have been a free kick. I think it's because he stood there and then the boy fell over him. And the boy ended up going off, didn't he? Because at first I thought he was just trying to time waste it and that, but then he actually went off and he was a captain. You're not taking the captain off for a few minutes to go. Because he gave himself a sore one when he landed. But I'm not saying I don't think it was a free kick in football. As I say, if he had jumped up and challenged for it, I don't think it would have been a free kick. I think it's because he's caused the guy to hurt himself by no moving.
I thought,
is it some kind of obstruction rule or something? I don't know what I'm trying to work out for the referee why it would have been a free kick.
I think the referee was one of these refs that tries to take like the least controversial decision each time, and he's over at the side of the Livingston fans. He's already had a word with Martindale, who's been at him for, I can't say Boyle was diving. I think he's had to separate Martindale and Lee Johnson at one point as well. He's the sort of referee that, rather than giving a penalty, would get you to retake the corner. He didn't get a penalty against Boyle, but he didn't book him for diving, because it's like, well, it's one or the other, right?
Not always so.
Well, no, I can't not always, right? Fair enough. Or he booked the boy for an incident where there was a wee smash with Boyle, but Boyle also gets booked there. Right after that, the boy goes through the back. I can't remember who it was that goes through the back, but it's another yellow card. But it doesn't book him, because that would have been, oh fuck, I'm going to have to send them off.
It's going to affect his ratings and getting a bigger games, like in the Rangers Celtic games.
And I just think that he gave that free kick because it was the easiest thing to do. And then him switch off. I mean, you can be aggrieved that the free kick being given, but you have to fucking defend it. The boy's got a free header. And
I was genuinely sitting watching it in the house, and I went, "Oh fuck's sake!" before the boy had even headed it, because you just seen it coming across the boy and his Todd almost dangling there in the air, hanging in the air, waiting on it coming. You're like, oh.
To give credit, to give Livy their due, like it was a really good ball into the box, but as you both said there, like it was just totally uncontested. And I think maybe last season, having conceded so many goals from set pieces, having not conceded for set pieces this season before, like maybe it has become a wee bit of an expectation now, because we obviously haven't addressed it.
I think it goes back to the desire, because Livy didn't have that many free kicks or corners to put in our box, but the one that they get at the death came when it mattered. They took advantage of it. Now, we scored from a set piece as well. I think I remember it kind of pinballed about. But if you look at how the ball gets to Kenny, Livingston are clearing the lines. Livingston have actually won the ball. It kind of smacks off of Yuan, who's sort of charging the ball down and it bounces off him and breaks to Kenna who finishes. But it's not a clever bit of set piece play, really. We kind of got lucky because of where the boys' clearance went. It's Livingston's wanted it more like that set piece. If we contest that and defend with like putting bodies on the line, that boy doesn't get a free header and they didn't get a goal.
Yep. And it's I think that's one of the most frustrating things about it. And I don't know whether it was. I've just had this wee bell ringing, like I've said this before, but it comes down. So I think it was maybe when I was describing Martin Boyle's goal last week after the frustration of the first half and the second half, where it felt like we were just like knocking the ball about with no end product in mind. All that was just simple, like just a player fucking moving and our player standing still.
Yep.
Like how? And I was having when I was walking away for the game with my adopted dad afterwards. We were just talking about like, so Martindale presumably has had the same sort of coaching, or he's probably carried out the same as, if not equivalent, coaching qualifications as, say, Lee Johnson, as Sean Maloney, Jackie Ross, etc. But it seems like the one thing that he can do that our recent managers haven't is been able to motivate his players to go the extra yard.
Mm-hmm.
How the fuck do we get a manager, or how do we get our current manager to get that into the players? Because that was definitely missing. Like, it doesn't matter if you get it in the second half; it was missing first half. Like, you've just wasted half the game.
Yeah.
Same as we did against Falkirk.
I wonder if it comes down to the fact that we go. There might be like the psychology of how you set up, right? So Hibs will go into that game going, it's on us to force the issue, right? And so all the focus will be on what are your passing moves, what are your, like, how are you attacking, how are you kind of creating overloads in this place and that place. Whereas Livingston will go, and this is Marvin Bartley said earlier on, he said I could talk about it because the game's gone. So we look to say what do their players do and how do we stop it? And so their focus is on, didn't let Melkerson make the runs for the outside in, didn't let Cadden come down this wing, and so all their players are there and says stop him. That's what your job is, to go and stop him. You have to work hard to do it. So and that thing about saying that the one thing that they can control above everything else is how hard to work. It could just be like that. Like Hibs going with thinking, right, I've got to be focused on the tactical side of it, whereas Livy are going, just fucking kick fuck at them. You can just hammering at the tackles, be first or the second balls and all the rest of it.
Run further than them.
Aye. And it's as simple as that. Like it's, I think it's necessarily is any more complicated than that, John. That's my view on it.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the next one. So we're not hanging about too long on it. I think the performance, we've covered all the main points there, I think. Yeah. So there's a load of folk talking about the pitch. So 1984, CW, George FR, Gordon, Charlie Banks and AKA Rab. If we don't have a plastic pitch at our training ground, get one and train on it for these upcoming games. I don't understand why it's a big deal. These pitches have been about for 25 years. It's a lack of desire. Why do we have to wait to go behind before start playing? If we started the first half the way we started the second half, it's a different game entirely. Hibs have had a problem on artificial surfaces for years. Players waiting for a pass to reach them instead of stepping towards the ball is suicidal at places like Livy and Kelly. No excuse though, they do us at home as well. Realistically, how much does that pitch play a part in our results against Livy? Seems to be a lot of instances of players misjudging the bounce. Should it be banned? You wouldn't catch the Premier League or La Liga allowing it. What do we learn from that so when we play Kelly on plastic we don't replicate it? And finally, anyone else fed up that the SFA isn't telling Livy if they want to stay in the top tier to get rid of the pellets and get some fucking tough? Embarrassing. My view is that it's embarrassing that we use this as an excuse and we go in with this as an excuse before the game. That's my opinion on it. It's a fucking pitch that they train on and they've played on probably most of their career at youth levels all the way up, but yet it comes to a game and they go, the pitch, and it's fucking, it's like I'm sick of hearing it every time we play on plastic. Like if it's that hard and it gives you that much an advantage, we should just get one ourselves. On Easter Road rather than the training centre like 1984 suggested there.
Aye, it's a good point. Again, if it is that much an advantage, why are we not doing it? I tend to agree. Like I'm not a fan of the pitch. I don't think it makes a good spectacle. I think like John said about the the difference in how the ball moves, and Livy do have an advantage, right? I mean, I think their home record's better than their away record, as far as I can recall. But then that's probably true for most teams, so that it isn't necessarily down to the pitch. We can't use it as an excuse. It's the same pitch for both teams. As much as Livy use it all the time.
Didn't your Rangers go in there and talking about it? Like, they might mention it, but they win.
So I think,
and then they can come away talking about it. You're in a better position then, aren't you? Just sour grapes if every time we do it every year.
I think the pitch is a factor as much as it's two teams that play on it. But we didn't get beat yesterday because of the pitch. We got beat yesterday because we were shit.
And you just need to learn to adapt your game. So if it means practicing and training all week before you go and do it, then do that. Do you know,
Sorry, can I just clarify reword my previous comment? It wasn't because we were shit. It's because we were shit and we lacked the desire to put in the work that Livy did.
Yeah. So it's a shit pitch. There's no two ways about it. But that wasn't why we got beat. And Livy are not going to get their debt, and SFA are not going to make them get their debt, or SPFL are not going to make them get their debt. Livy need that pitch and the income it brings them to kind of keep themselves afloat as much. So
why is it embarrassing, as people call it, or like why is it embarrassing that there's plastic pitches?
I think because it affects the quality generally in the game. I think when you look at it and it doesn't look great. And when the ball just doesn't move the way the ball's meant to move, I like all that kind of thing. It's just.
Is it that noticeable? Do you think that the ball doesn't move the way it wants?
I think you can. Well, I think you can tell.
You as a spectator, thinking, you notice that?
Aye, and I think you can see for how players miscontrol the ball, or the under hit passes or over hit passes in some instances, or
Did
like John.
Grass as well.
Aye, this is true to do, but no as regularly. And I think even like there was, like first half there was a ball over the top for Ewan, who on a grass pitch the ball goes out of play. Joey would just skipped off the turf and went away, but it held up and he was able to kind of get in behind them. And I went right enough, but it's just things like that. Like the ball behaves differently, and actually what the players' movement changes as well. You see kind of players getting their feet stuck, and that kind of happens on grass as well. Folk get injured on grass pitches the same as they get injured on AstroTurf pitches, but I just think you can notice a difference in it.
I think we overplay it. I really do, and I think we go in. We'll come on to, I suppose, in extra time, but I think we go in with the mindset, oh, it's plastic.
Would you have wanted to play up on it?
I never ever did. I guess it would. I don't know, because there is now 4G or 4G pitches at the top level in England.
Are they the hybrid ones?
Aye, they're called 4G, I think.
Right.
But so you get a wee burn now and again, more than. But I think all I can say is it looked like it might be harder to land on based on the guy at the second free kick and having to go off. But I think if it's all about the ball bouncing and that, it actually doesn't matter, does it? Because the football's all about keeping the ball on the ground. Rugby, the ball's more or less in your hands or in the air. So it doesn't matter for that point of view. And rather than mud and puddles, I'd rather be running about on a nice bit of fucking turf. But we train, all the kids like up to train on it and play on it all day, every day. So it's like, how are they not used to about the ball doing that? It just seems they're probably on the Astro more than they're on grass. Maybe not the first team now because they've got the nice 3 pitches down at East Mains, but it just seems. I just think it's a massive excuse, and I think it's we're going in with the excuse, and it's like let's just, and then when we get beat, not if, when we just go, the pitch, and it deflects from the problem. The actual not working hard enough. I think it's a massive deflection. I do. It doesn't impact Rangers and Celtic as often, although I don't think Celtic had a great record there for a while, but definitely Rangers hardly ever get beat at Livingston.
It's interesting, actually. I don't know how. In fact, it came up. I'll keep it because I think we might be talking about it in the subscriber episode. Sorry, if you want to hear it, then you'll
subscribe. It probably overlaps a wee bit with that, but I think the pitch is an excuse. But loads of people are making that excuse. What's that? 5, 6, 7 different points all around the pitch. And the Livingston guys will probably be jumping up and down at it, but it's like, as I say, if we need an advantage, let's go and fucking get one, and then next time we'll be better there than won't we?
Aye. Well, I suppose the other thing there is we've got a fucking massive advantage going to Livingston because we've got a big fucking training centre. We're able to spend fucking hundreds of thousands of pounds on players that they can't do. In fact, we spent more on advertising things around the side of the pitch than Livingston spent on their fucking team. So before we even talking about players, that gives you a huge advantage. So let them have the fucking pitch.
And I assume that when they come to Easter Road, they're totally out of sorts because they're on grass and they're not used to that.
Because the ball will be bouncing differently.
Aye.
So the next big section before we got miscellaneous was what do we need, which we kind of started touching on, I think, in extra time a couple of weeks ago. But we've got a few points here. We've got a few points, but they're all pretty much the same. So Steve Condé, Ryan Lyle, Kaiser, Soze, not the original one, with the cartoon character face. Jeff Ashton, Charlie Mulgrew, thinks you made that up. SJT, Dave Graham, Gav Dick, and KM. In the last 2 windows, we've made 15 to 20 signings, but only 5 or 6 are ready to play SPFL level football. Can we significantly improve the team with that ratio? We need to buy guys who are ready to play. Jair needs developed, not ready for a start. Would like Melkerson in the middle next to Yuan. How bad is Tavares? I mean, seriously, that guy is now our number 10. Wow, just wow. On Bojang, he was clearly upset at missing that sitter, which we didn't cover. Come back to that. Young boy, new club. I hope the Boo Boys don't get on his back and destroy him. We'll have a bash in a minute. Centre half, urgently needed. Jair needs a season with the development squad. Nowhere near it today. We've played worse than one. Bojang's miss with a horror smiley. Pie was good. 4 centre halves with no club. All old, this guy suggests, right? So there's like, he's not suggesting we sign 4, he's put 4 in, like Gary Cahill's and can't remember the other ones, right? There's 4 old boys, all out of contract now. Why the fuck in over 3 years have we not signed the centre back? It's blatantly obvious that position had to be a priority. We need 2 centre backs, and Joe Newell doesn't bother his arse most games. And finally, would you take Dylan McGill back? Talked to him at work and he said he'd love to. So I think, where do we start here? Right, so Tavares, we've kind of mentioned that. I think is it giving him the number 10 jersey, does that really make a difference? I suppose it puts a bit more pressure on him, but it shouldn't, but it does, because folks still look at that and say, oh, he's a number 10. But he didn't have a good game. What about Bojang's miss, though? What did you make of that? Was that the other end of the ground for you as well?
Aye, so at the time I thought it was a fucking shocker, but I've seen it back, and I thought the ball was a wee bit behind him. Kind of the pace where he's coming in, if I was being kind, he's had to kind of put his foot back to get it. Kind of to get the ball in the
plastic pitches slowed it down.
Aye, and so
it was an inch perfect pass when it was left.
Couldn't get his balance right.
Aye,
the rubber.
I thought it looked worse than it was. If I was getting on the benefit of the doubt, it was like it looked much easier from our position at the time than when I watched the highlights. I was like, fuck, well, I've seen plenty of players miss that chance before.
I thought it was an absolute sitter watching it on the TV, and then I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I thought the defender had came zooming across, and I thought it maybe deflected off the defender out for a corner, but I don't think it did. So I'm going back to my original. I think he should have scored it, like plastic pitch or not.
Aye.
I've not seen the replay. I just watched it at the time and I thought it was a stinker because it looked
there's a certain angle that the defender looks like he's got across and got like the slightest of glances as the shot's left his foot, and it might have went out, but it didn't get the corner. Nobody was claiming for it. The other angles didn't look like that. So yeah.
I thought it was a wee bit behind him. If I was being kind to him, it wasn't at the time. I was like, "Fuck's sake, how have you missed that?" It's like a criminal one. But when I watched it back, I didn't think it was as bad as that. Tavares, by the way, like, folk have written him off already. Like this is, and I can't get my head. I can't get my head around why folk wanted it, or why are folk so fucking determined to call folk shite. And I would say, like, see if he'd had a great game yesterday. It's too early to say he's going to be fucking brilliant. He was shite yesterday. It's too early to say he's going to be shite. I think Lee Johnson said, I can't remember if it was like in the written press or if it was on the Hibs TV one about will they learn for that, because he needs to learn quickly that you're going to be faced with players coming at you 100 mile an hour in the Scottish Premiership. So you need to be brave and get on the ball and try to beat men. Like, that's what his job is, and if he can't do it, he'll no last at Hibs. But you find that out. He's never experienced Scottish football before. He's a young laddie. He's come over. Yep. It's a big step up for him in a different style of football. Give him a chance. Just because he didn't do it now.
I've been saying it since pre-season though, since we won the 2 games in Portugal when folk were trying to talk it up. We can't use that as an example to talk it up, but we shouldn't be using this either as an example to talk them down.
Yeah.
They're on you and still finding their feet.
Aye. And I would say the same for Kenna, for Bojang. I mean, folk have already categorised Bojang as, well, before he started, they categorised him as some sort of fucking wild card, which I couldn't get my head around as well. Like, it might work, it might no, because we signed him for a team that we'd never heard of. So Hibs didn't just go and sign fucking, well, we'll have a laugh and we'll flip a coin and see, let's pluck this boy out and see if he's a footballer or not. They did their homework in that, and they bring them in. Bojang's not played enough for any of us to go and say he's decent or he's shite. He just hasn't. Tavares hasn't. He's played 45 minutes there. He played against St Johnstone. Did he play the full game against St Johnstone? No, 70 minutes or something like that, I think. And then he came on for a wee cameo against fucking Morton. Like, you couldn't tell if he was a good player or not. In that amount of time, it's just get a bit of chance. He needs to do better than he did yesterday because he was fucking shite. Apart from that one dribble and cross that he got in, he needs to do more than that. But I wouldn't say he can't do that, or he's never going to be able to do it.
No, agreed. Too early to say. Very time. So the one that talks about the number of signings we've made, 15 to 20. I don't know if he's counted this up and went through it, or if he's just guessed it. But 15 to 20, but only 5 or 6 ready to play, and that's in the last 2 windows. Well, if you think that ratio is accurate, firstly, do you think that's how successful do you think that is?
John, you can answer that one.
I don't know how to answer it.
Do you agree with that? Do you think we've made 15 to 20 signs? Do you think we've only had 5 or 6 that have come through that are actually ready to play first team football? So the load of boys that we're saying are going to be development players, and then other ones that have come in the first team, none of them have set the header light, have they really?
Is it a wee bit Hibs disappointment bingo? Like, was anyone saying that any of these guys weren't ready when they were playing again, when we won against St Johnstone, when we got the point back against Hearts? Like, is it just because we've got beat that the frustrations come out and you point to the different factors and say, well, that shit, and that's why we got beat?
Yeah.
Or sorry, no, we got beat and these things are all shit.
I think it's want to go back to kind of Christmas time, Okay, we were going to January window and you go and then kind of take stock.
Is Christmas time even too soon? Like, should we be looking at it?
Well, we were marking them at 15 at Christmas.
So. Christmas is right because they've had a chance to get into the team and get a decent number of appearances behind them. And if they're going to cement a place, they'll have done it by then.
So my question is that still quite short-termism in terms of, like, if we write off X number of those players come Christmas, do we then start looking at Lee Johnston again and saying, well, you fucking signed them?
No, I think you make a call based on what you know at that point. I go back to the earlier point, you're not saying they're never going to be good, because we do the same analysis and reflection at the end of the season and you go and say, right, what do we think now? Because things change, like players somebody will come to the fore and have a really good season, somebody might start well and fade away, so you're all right. We're allowed to change our mind on things, John, and update it with new information as it becomes available. Right, Colin, next one. We'll batter on because
how many centre halves do we need? How many centre halves do we need? That's the one question.
2.
And would you take Dylan McGeoch back? 2 and Dylan McGeoch?
No.
How many centre halves?
We definitely need a left centre half. We need somebody that can either play when Paul Hanlon isn't ready, or that's better than Paul Hanlon, and Paul Hanlon can come into play when that person's not ready.
Yeah. Okay, last bit then, miscellaneous. Jeff Ashton, Parma St Christopher, the official Livy podcast, and TG Willis. Did you notice Trial by Sports Team didn't show the tackle leading to the second goal? I think the kiosk staff at Livy are ripping us off. Ordered a bottle of water, has to be in a cup, so it appears left stage in a cup. Never saw a bottle, tasted warm like tap water. Anybody else? We'll need to put that out to 80295, I think. Short managers don't work for Hibs. We need someone taller than the average Carden gnome. Livy must be thinking about recording a new emergency evacuation announcement. What should the new one be? And I think this was for the Livy podcast. Martindale would take Lee Johnston inside 4 rounds in a boxing match. Any thoughts on any of them?
The evacuation thing should be warning. The match is about to start.
If you want.
Aye. You know what's happening. Just beat the traffic.
And do you think Martindale could take Lee Johnson
Aye.
inside 4 rounds?
Aye.
But do you think this is a boxing match? This isn't like dirty street fight or prison fights or anything like that. No chibs, man. It's just a pure glove zone and go.
Like,
Johnson's
we
maybe
talking
fitter,
Queensberry
fitter,
rules,
younger.
like someone's
Proper
maybe got a
boxing.
bit of boxing technique.
You said boxing match. I think Johnson could be. Aye. I don't know what his reach is like, but Martindale's not a tall guy. He's older. Johnson's fitter.
Martindale's got the streets behind him, though. You know, he's had
but
a rough upbringing, and do you know, I think he would. That's who my money would be on. Would be on Martindale. The tap water thing, by the way, we need to figure that out, and we'll write into Panorama or Watchdog.
Panorama points of view.
Aye, get Watchdog on the case, because we could do like
Livy FC on the Cook report.
You know, when they do, like in America, they do like a class action lawsuit. So we could do that against Livy and then get refunds and compensation for everybody that's bought bottled water at Livingston.
What I took for that point was, and it might be silly, but never saw a bottle. It tasted warm like tap water. Does your tap water taste warm? Is it colder out of a bottle than it is out of tap?
My tap water's colder out because I get the bottle out of the fridge.
But I wonder, maybe, you know how sometimes like they'll maybe have like umpteen cups lined up so that anytime anyone asks for it, it's just there. Like, it's not like they've gone and poured and then come back.
Okay, interesting.
Right. Okay, let's get into the quiz. Right, I don't need to take the score. So, is it 2-0 in the series?
Aye, Granny.
Colin's rinsing me.
Right. Now here's your. And you get the hang of how the questions work now, John. Colin, you've obviously got a bit of experience.
Absolutely not.
Experience of Matthew. Aye. Do I need a pen and paper this time?
Nah, you'll not need that. Nah. Right. Question 1, and play at home. Oh, because we'll do the questions and come back and do the answers. So yeah, you need a pen and paper because you need to write down the answers.
Right, yo.
So if I've got anything complicated,
did I get a point for having already got a pen and paper with me? And Colin had to go find it.
But you get a point off for being teacher's pet. Nah, I'm only kidding. No point adjustments. Right. First question: true or false? Livingston was the inspiration for kids' show The Magic Roundabout. Is it true or is it false?
False.
Don't shout out, John. You got to write it down. We do the answers at the end.
Oh shit! Sorry.
Fucking hell! Point off.
Boy, you'll be in for a surprise at the end.
Question 2. Remember, play along at home. Livingston used to have the motto "Make it in Livingston." What was the it? So that was Livingston used to have the motto "Make it Livingston." What was the it? Question 3. How long was David Martindale sentenced in prison for cocaine dealing? And it's the nearest answer. It's the point if you don't get it right.
Nearest year, nearest month.
In years. It's nearest in years. So in years, how many years was he sentenced to? Not how many did he complete. How many was he sentenced to?
Okay.
And that was for cocaine dealing. Just so you know what kind of things to avoid. Right. Question 4. David Martindale was a criminal, but can you name a crime? That's David Martindale was a criminal, but can you name a crime? Question 5. Who was Livingston manager when Hibs beat them 7-0 in 2006?
I was at that game. It was Baltic.
And question 6 is who was the Hibs manager for that game? Question 7. What's the story, Morning Glory?
Yep.
Question 8. Irvin Welsh is Scottish. Tom English is Irish. Where's Jason Scotland from? Question 9. It's an easy one, this one. Hibs play Rangers on Saturday. How many top flight titles have Rangers won? And question 10, true or false, Craig White was a bit of a laugh. Right.
Some boy.
It was some boy. Right. Number one then, true or false, Livingston was the inspiration for kids' show The Magic Roundabout. If you got John, you said false, you shouted that out.
False.
Say true.
It was false. It was actually the inspiration for crop circles. So it's a point to John and for Colin there. Livingston used to have the motto "Make it in Livingston." What was the it?
Roundabouts.
Electronics.
No, it was love, because Livingston is the home of dogging. So no point saying make love in Livingston was what they originally wanted to call it, but it was too saucy for them. How long was David Martindale sentenced in prison for cocaine dealing?
4 years.
I said 3.
It was 6 years. Point to John.
Was it?
Aye. David Martindale was a criminal, but can you name a crime?
Yes.
Yes.
Point each. Well done.
He's learning.
Who was the Livy manager when we beat them 7-0 in 2006?
Paul Lambert.
I think it's Paul Lambert as well.
It was Paul Lambert, yeah, point each. And the Hibs manager?
Tony Mowbray.
Colin?
Nah, I put John Collins. But I'm
was
thinking
Tony
it's a
Mowbray.
mix. Was it?
Aye, Tony
It was
Mowbray.
who?
Tony Mowbray.
Mowbray.
Irvin Welsh is Scottish, Tom English is Irish. Where is Jason Scotland from?
Have you?
You missed that question.
You've missed a question. You've missed.
I watched the story in
Morning
Morning
Glory.
Glory.
True.
Yes.
It was train spotting, so no points. Irvin Welsh is Scottish, Tom English is Irish. Where is Jason Scotland from?
Trinidad and Tobago.
Trinidad and Tobago.
I'll give you that. It's Trinidad. I think he was for both of them.
Was he not?
Nah, but he's. I'll give you both for that. Hibs play Rangers on Saturday. How many top flight titles have Rangers won?
It's 1.
One. Yep, point each. And true or false, Craig White was a bit of a laugh.
True.
So, John, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Granny's
6, 7,
off.
8. 8 points. Colin, you've got 5. So,
8 out of 10 there.
Aye.
That's impressive. Like, well done, John.
2-1 in the series.
Number 4. Yes. That really helps set me on my way.
I didn't think he would get it. I thought he was going to go away trying to find a crime.
Like burglary. Right, Rangers on Saturday then. We'll play them on the back of a European game, which is always a good time to get them, I think. Score predictions and how do you think the game will go, Colin?
I'm hoping to have a hard night midweek. Is it Tuesday or Wednesday they're playing? Is it Tuesday? Is it later? I hope it's later. I hope it's a later one. And we can catch them off guard early doors. Maybe get a goal or 2 early. I don't know if I believe that, but I'm going to say 2-1.
2-1 Hibs.
Aye.
John, same question to you.
I think unless we find some motivation to run about a bit, then we're probably going to get absolutely battered for 88 minutes, and then in the 89th we're going to snatch a winner. 1-0 Hibs.
Actually, I think we'll be all right for the motivation side of it because we're playing a team that's better than us. So the expectation is different. It's like
Good.
Okay, that's all we've got time for tonight.
Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee. I don't drink water, no.